My name is Harmon Dash. Welcome to Make It Fair, where today we speak to another local candidate vying for a governing spot in the city of New Orleans, Dr. Andre Strumer, one of 6 running for a District B seat on the city council. Before even meeting Dr. Strumer in person, it was clear to us that he was one of the hardest working candidates on the campaign trail. During a 10-minute phone call and scheduling this interview, he paused no less than 8 times to shake hands and speak with local voters. Something he does on a daily basis. That may seem par for the course for an individual seeking election, until you realize his opponents, who outfund him by an extraordinary margin due to the big money donors, are sitting back letting the dollars do the work for them. Everywhere from local publications to candidate forums, Dr. Strumer is left unmentioned, excluded from the list of qualified candidates, even though his name appears on the ballot. It's yet another example of how ideas to serve all the voters has taken a back seat to money determining who's selected to govern. Even more disconcerting, when tracking the funds donated to the other candidates, it's clear they're receiving an overwhelmingly disproportionate amount of dollars from sources outside of New Orleans. For example, real estate developers who don't live here but want to use our city for monetary gain with no concern of how their big money projects will adversely affect the people who do live here. The short-term rental industry, Airbnb for example, it doesn't necessarily bring much to the local economy, but it does drive up rents, sometimes forcing out those who live here from the market. It's one thing for a local to offer their own dwelling to visit tourists as a means of making some extra money. That's cash they're likely to spend here in the local economy. But the developers we're talking about are attempting to buy our city's government and have no interest in what you need. To be fair, if you're amongst the minority who do own property in Orleans Parish, you might personally benefit from these development projects driving up your property values. But this is a short-sighted benefit, as a large percentage of New Orleans residents are renters, many of whom work in the service industry. If we push these individuals further away from the jobs they hold, tourism will likely suffer. And if tourism suffers, what happens to your property values? Do you at all get the impression that many of these candidates are only thinking about the next election rather than the future of New Orleans? Shouldn't we be in search of individuals looking to serve the entire voting public, not just the moneyed interests hoping to use our city to make another quick buck? That's why we thought it important to give time to a candidate whose lack of big money campaign donations has limited the volume of his voice. So here, now, we present to you my conversation with Dr. Andre Strumer. So Election Day here in New Orleans, almost upon us, October 14th. There are many reasons for you to head out to the polls. In fact, early voting already underway. You can early vote through Saturday, October 7th, and then again the actual Election Day, October 14th. We're very lucky to have with us candidate for City Council District B, Dr. Andre Strumer. You've got a doctorate in journalism and communications, I understand?
Yes, it's true.
You're a fabulous communicator, are you?
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's been a passion of mine since I was a child.
Well, apparently you have a lot of passions, and that's what's brought you to the table here. Why are you running for this City Council position?
It's a call to action. I have a civic responsibility to do what I can to help the community. And right now, running for City Council, that's what takes care of that passion. I can help people, I can listen to them, I can bridge people together. I'm a great listener, and I can bring people together by listening to their concerns, bringing them to the table and finding out that there's a lot of people who share the same concerns. They're just looking at them from different perspectives. And we all want the same things. We want safer streets. We all want a brighter future for our children. We all want to drive without potholes and without having to worry about flooding and drainage.
In this town?
In this town.
You can make this happen.
We all can do this. We can do this together, and we just need a voice to represent the people, because we do want these things together, and I'm that voice.
And you're going to be the unifying voice.
I'd like to be. That's the goal, to bring people together.
Well, what kind of a background do you have in political office in the first place?
I'm a big fan of the West Wing.
So is that where this is ultimately going?
Let's take one campaign at a time.
One position at a time, understood. What are some of the challenges you're facing in running for this position?
There's a remarkable media blackout on the less well-funded campaigns and the less well-funded candidates in general. We start off in a democratic process all equal.
That's democracy. Everyone has an equal voice.
The problem that ensues is that people with more money start out ahead of the starting line. So whereas we're all supposed to start out at the same place and the starting gun fires, bam. Then our political positions, everyone gets a voice, you hear them, you make your own decisions on whose policy initiative is closely aligned to yours, and you vote for that person. Well, when you have too much money in the campaigns, you don't start off at the same level. You start out further ahead. And that's not fair. That's not democracy.
No.
That's having money influence elections. And the founders, Tommy Jefferson, Ben Franklin, they'd be rolling over in their sarcophaguses if they knew this was going on.
And that is what we're all about here, is about how money sort of corrupts our democracy. What do you do to get your message to the people?
Other than come here and sit with you five folks, I go out and I shake hands. It's the money thing is an aspect in all national politics and all world politics. What I'm doing to counter that is the counter maneuver I'm doing is going out and doing retail politics, meeting people, shaking their hands, listening to what they have, what their concerns are, what they love about the city, and what troubles them about the city. Mm-hmm. And I can do that one handshake at a time. It's what Gandhi did, it's what Dr. King did, it's what Harvey Milk did.
It's what Andre Strumer does.
It's what Andre Strumer is doing, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what do you say to someone, though, who says, well, I don't know who you are, you're not viable?
I say, listen to my policies. Then you make your decision. I'm viable because you have one vote. Billboards can't vote. Flyers can't vote. People vote. So every person I meet, if that person's going to vote, that person's going to vote for me. Because my policies are understood. They're the policies of the people. They're the policies of the workers. They're the policies of the cops, the firefighters, the nurses, the teachers, the cab drivers, the servers. These are the people who need a voice, somebody to speak to them, and then hear their issues and bring them back, bring everyone together. Mm-hmm. The people love their jobs, especially the groups I just mentioned. They love what they're doing. They're not specifically in it for the money. You don't see a cop who's in it for the money or a firefighter who's in it for the money. These people are doing these jobs because that's what their passion is. Mm-hmm. I respect that. My passion is being a man of the people, that I can listen to everyone and I push ourselves forward, making it, here's the thing. Raising a family, living a life, paying your bills, having a job, these are good qualities. These are things that make a person, a man, a woman, a woman. These are hard things, and they should be hard, because at the end of the day, you have a feeling of accomplishment. But they should just be a little easier. You shouldn't be working a full-time 40 hours a week and living in poverty. You shouldn't be forced to have to take a second job. If you want to do a second job, you want to save it a little extra money, sure. But you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't be one life event, one $300 sickness or one $300 car repair away from not being able to pay your light bill or you pay your prescriptions for that month. You shouldn't be 6 months in financial recovery for that extra money because it just surprised you.
It sounds like you're talking what the social contract of the New Deal was. It's kind of been undone.
Well, I can't say that I'm not a fan of FDR. I'm a fan of the New Deal. I'm a fan of the Great Society. I'm a fan of all the big Democratic presidents. They all offered us things to move us forward. And we were dragged kicking and screaming into these ideas of social programs and all the negative aspects that came about when people first brought them out. It's like Carl Sagan says, all great truths start as blasphemies. Mm-hmm. And then you get along with them. And you're like, oh, how could we have ever done without Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare? Now we have them. How could you have done with the civil rights movement? Before we had that, we didn't have it. Mm-hmm. Now we have it, and it's moving things forward. These are incremental changes. One of the problems I see is that people want everything done yesterday.
Of course.
Of course, it would be great to have everything done yesterday, but we're not going to be able to do that. Let's take what we have and move forward. One step at a time, then a bigger step, and maintain what we have, and then move forward. Currently, with our present administration in Washington, we're afraid that we're going to lose everything that we've worked for.
Yeah, feels like a lot of things are being undone.
Now we have to go focus from moving forward to maintaining what we have. Mm-hmm. And that's annoying to people because we thought everything we had, there's ours to keep. Well, the truth is, women got the vote in 1920 because of a vote. They can lose it because of a vote. Civil rights was a vote. Mm-hmm. Roe v. Wade was a vote. Mm-hmm. Every one of these things that we take for granted now, they were a vote. they can be voted out again. So we have to maintain what we have, and that is a strong position to have, and we need to move that forward with the, hey, these are rights we have, but they started out as a vote, and they can be taken away, and then they won't be rights. Then they'll be wishes again.
Well, do you think that we can work towards maintenance and maybe going back the other way and progressing again when money is kind of controlling everything from elections on down the line?
That's what I believe, that's what I hope for, and that's what I'm working towards. I'm working towards one person, one vote, and that big money is not going to be able to influence the elections because there's grassroots people out there doing activist work. And again, it comes down to one person has one vote. I'm running a campaign, my slogan is, I'm so grassroots, I'm weeds. I like that because it implies that we're all in this thing together and that your vote is just the same as my vote. It's one vote. And it doesn't matter if I can contribute $2,500 to a campaign or if I can't contribute anything to a campaign except going out and voting. It's still the same vote. We need people to understand that their vote matters. One thing I've heard a lot, a shameful amount, is I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to talk about politics. I'm not interested. I don't care about politics. And the truth is, yes, you do. You just have gotten a sour taste in your mouth. Do you care about having traffic cameras? Do you care about your potholes being fixed? Do you care about good schools and safe sidewalks? Those are political issues. Yes, you do care about politics.
Do you think people just feel so overwhelmed and maybe don't even have the time because they're trying to keep their own bases covered that they just they can't think about these things as much as maybe you believe they'd like to?
Yes, there's a lot of that fatigue. I can't do it because I've got to work 2 jobs or 2.5 jobs. I don't have any time or money to contribute. It doesn't matter what I do. My vote doesn't matter. I hear this, my one vote doesn't matter. Yes, it does. And if you can do nothing else for the political process, go vote. Vote. That is the most important thing. You're the most important part of a civilization. You are a citizen. You have a vote. That is the most important civic responsibility you have. Get out there and use that. Otherwise, we're just as stupid as they say. And we deserve whatever they give us. If we don't go out and vote and make our voices heard, then we deserve whatever rights we don't have. Whatever problems we have, we deserve them because we didn't take the time out to go and vote. And I know it's difficult.
Well, and you know, to be fair, some people, it's not that they don't want to go, it's that they're so overstretched they can't find their way to the voting booth on election day. And you know, that's really a sad state of affairs when you can't even get to be participating in democracy because you're so overstretched just keeping your home functioning.
And I am certain that is by design. I am certain that disenfranchising certain voters who would vote one way is by design, to disenfranchise people who would benefit from a vote to the left or a vote to the right. Whatever voting you're being marginalized from doing is by design. If it were easy, you know, you'd have early voting, you'd be able to vote from your phone, you'd be able to, we can do all these fantastic things. You know, you say, oh, there's fraud. Well, how do you know? You can pay your credit card bill with your phone from your bank. That's not going to be a problem of fraud. You're going to have a voting thing. You can pay your credit card bill, but you can't vote.
Right.
You can pay your light bill, but you can't vote. No. Come on. Tell me something else. Pull this leg, it plays jingle bells. But seriously, we can do these things.
You mentioned that you know, you're not spending as much as, say, some of the other candidates. Where do you find what's the discrepancy, like a ratio? How much are you being outspent by?
I'm being outspent about $250 to every $1 I spend.
I mean, that's a giant percentage.
Yeah.
What do you do to combat that?
Again, it's retail politics. It's going out, meeting people, walking up and down the street. Hi, how you doing? I'm Andre Strumer. I'm running for city council.
Do you feel like some of the other candidates are not doing more of that outreach because they're sitting back with a lot of campaign funds?
Well, I can't speak to what other candidates are doing, but I tell you what, if I had hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend in a city council race, I'd be running a different campaign. I'd be spending more money, I don't know, with big time galas, having more high money donors. But if I had more money, it would be easier, I think. But running for office isn't supposed to be easy because the job isn't supposed to be easy.
Well, you're supposed to represent a large swath of people. If you're just going to galas and wouldn't you be beholden to these big money donors if that's where your money's coming from?
Well, it seems that would be the case. Now, I can't speak to every individual case, but it seems like if somebody offers you a lot of money, why are they offering you a lot of money? Mm-hmm. But then somebody could say the same thing. Why is somebody offering you a $25 campaign contribution? What is that person expecting back from you? So being a true bleeding heart knee-jerk liberal, you have to look at everything from every possible perspective.
Sure,
and that
that's
could
fair.
be turned around on me. The idea of, I think it should be much more, are the people donating to the campaigns living in the district or in the city, or are they outside money? Where is the money coming from? It's the old Watergate thing, follow the money. Mm-hmm. If
we say that often
follow
here.
the money, because that will answer all your questions.
So we're getting a lot of campaign donations for a city council seat here in New Orleans from people that aren't actually living here in the district?
Yeah, I think that's shameful.
Or even in the city?
I
or
think
anywhere nearby?
This is New Orleans. New Orleanians should determine their own political futures, and it shouldn't be by outside sources. We should have some sort of campaign finance reform to determine who gets to donate and how much. Now, whether it's 25% of a person's campaign can come from outside sources, well, that's an idea that's been floated around, or whether it's you can only have a certain cap as to the amount of money that can be spent on a campaign. Mm-hmm. That's been floated around. I don't have the answer to that. I just know that things need to change because right now, if I'm spending $3,000, $5,000 on a campaign and other people are spending $300,000, $500,000, $800,000 on the same campaign, that is not a fair representation of democracy. Mm-hmm. That means that money plays, and that's not what the founders had in mind.
Again, democracy is supposed to be equal voice for everyone. It doesn't matter how much you got in your bank account.
Exactly.
That's not what's happening. The more money you got, the bigger your voice, the more representation you seem to get.
Yes. And every person has a vote. But if people are not, there have been some debates. I think I've been a part of a dozen debates in this campaign process in the first 2.5 months. There were several debates that I was excluded from.
Why is that?
Don't have an answer for you there, Stuart. Because whatever reason, but there were some candidates were excluded, some were given a voice at the table. Now, I was told by one group, we didn't have space at the table for all 6 candidates. We didn't have time for our debate forum to include all the responses from all the candidates. That's why you were not invited to the forum. That's why you were not invited to this forum.
Well, why you and not somebody else then? If they don't have room for everybody, then how do they decide who gets left out?
Then why have a forum at all? You can't have the privilege of hosting a forum if you're not going to include all the candidates at the forum. Everyone needs to have his or her voice heard if you're having a forum. That's the idea of it. And then let the listener, let the audience, let the voters decide for him or herself what candidate, what policies are best suited to that person, and then go vote. Mm-hmm. Or don't vote, which is the worst thing in the world. No, vote. Never mind, let me bring that back. Vote. It matters that you vote.
I wanted to ask you about the New Orleans Tribune. According to them, there's only 5 candidates running for this position at District B.
Yeah. Here, I brought a copy of it. I don't know what to say about this. As a doctor of journalism, I find this as anathema. How can you have a decision 2017 and not include all the candidates who are running? I was excluded. The 6 candidates running in my race were reduced to 5 candidates. And it even reads 5 candidates are running, not 6 candidates.
And what's their excuse for such a thing?
I don't know. They were unavailable for comment, which I think is a bit of irony that the newspaper is unavailable for comment on why they didn't include me. I went down. I did an interview with them. I filled out their extensive questionnaire. I sent them in a photograph of my campaign photograph so that they could have it for their newspaper. I opened up this month's issue, and I am not there. The ghost candidate, not mentioned at all.
Any idea what the other candidates did for them that kept them on the pages and not you?
Well, I've seen some of the other candidates have advertisements in the paper that may or may not, mostly may, have something to do with the reason why they're included and I'm not. But I can't speak to it as a pay-to-play issue, but I can't discount it as a pay-to-play issue.
I mean, it certainly sounds like it.
It may very well be.
But this is supposed to be journalism.
Journalism is supposed to
That's
be
what they're
our
presenting
fourth
it as.
estate. Journalism is what we have to keep people accountable, to be a transparency, to force people to be open.
Mm-hmm.
And this rag is not journalism. This rag is not an informative paper. This rag is a position paper for a certain group of people that are discounting the political process in favor of their own reasons, and I can't speak to what they are, but to disrespect a candidate for whatever reason is anathema to me. If you have a newspaper, it's your job to write, it's your job to report, especially on things that you don't like. Anyone can be politically active, anyone can be a rally person or an activist when things are easy. The whole Sunshine Patriot thing of Thomas Paine. It's hard, and that's what the true test of a person is. The true test of a journalist, of a politician, of any kind of person is doing your job when it's hard. Anyone can do it when it's easy.
Well, so you're a candidate who is qualified for this election.
Oh,
yet,
thank you. You honor me by saying so.
I mean, when we go to the ballot, you'll be on there, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So you've got some of these media outlets, you've got some of these debate forums excluding you.
Yes.
What about people using the internet to find out more about you?
Well, that's a fantastic option. The internet is supposed to be the great leveler as far as communication. It's supposed to be open to everyone. Unfortunately, right now, 40% of New Orleanians do not have access to the internet in their homes.
40%?
40%.
Well, so where can they go?
Well, we have beautiful public libraries here in New Orleans, and we have 13, 14 branches of the public library which people can go to and access the internet for free.
Well, if we're talking 40% of the population.
We're talking about 100,000 people. We can't have that many people we can't have that many people running to the libraries. Even we can't have 10,000 people sitting in a public library using the internet, so that's not a viable option. Mm-hmm. And if some people say that they can use it on their smartphones or their tablets, but still, that's about 25% of the people are going to be excluded still, and that's going to be a Venn diagram. So you're going to have you're not going to have 48% and 25% totaling 65% without access, but you are going to have a significant number of the electorate who are going to be uninformed without access to this information, and therefore going to be discounted. Mm-hmm. And obviously the people who are going to be discounted are the poor people who can't afford the money in their house to have their internet in their house. Those are going to be the people who are disenfranchised, who aren't going to be educated on the policy issues, who aren't going to be encouraged to vote because these policies are going to be things that are going to affect them. That is something that is disgraceful, because the poor are obviously going to be the people who get benefits the most from municipal elections. I love politics. I've always been a political activist. And the idea that national politics is a great thing. It's like every 4 years we flip a coin, and it's wonderful. And even statewide elections are absolutely fantastic to get involved in it. But the real governing that happens, that affects people on a day-to-day basis occurs at the municipal level.
Right in the district.
Things that affect us happen at city council, happen at the mayoral race. These are things that affect us. And to have 40% of New Orleanians not have access freely at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, I want to look this person up, I want to see what this person's policy ideas are, not be able to do that, that has to also be by design. And it's not to the point where we're having voter rolls or things like that, but it is keeping people away from the electorate to the point where I don't vote because it's never going to change anything. And that helps maintain that mentality, that idea point that we're not going to be able to do anything because, well, no, we are. We have to claw our way up to being represented. And that is our civic responsibility to do that. And I've taken it upon myself to run for office because I feel even more compelled to bring a voice for the people out. And I am privileged to be doing, I love what I'm doing. This is the best job I've ever had. And I'm filled with energy every morning to continue this work. Because each person I bring over to say, hey, read this thing. Be involved. These are the candidates running. Read what these people have to say. Choose. This is your responsibility, and it's your right. So they both go hand in hand. You have a privilege, you have a right, and you also have a responsibility to do this. You can't be on the sidelines. I've said before, democracy is not a spectator sport. We have to continue moving forward. Otherwise, we're going to move backwards. It's the idea, here's the thing. If you're on an escalator or a walking sidewalk in the airport, you're either going to be walking on the moving sidewalk, you're either going to be walking fast towards the direction, or you're going to be standing by and gradually moving you therefore. If you're on the moving sidewalk and you're moving towards a destination actively, you're going to be moving there faster. But if you're passively on the moving sidewalk and just letting things take you there, you're still going to get there at the same time. But you're not going to be actively moving there.
You're not going to be part of the progress. You're just going to have it happen upon you.
You're going to have it happen to you. And if it's something, say it's racism that you're toward the end point, people who are racing there, with their flags and their banners and their divisive speech, they're going to get there fast. But if you're on the sidewalk with your passive racism, you're going to get there eventually to the same place. And unless you actively turn around, unless you actively force yourself off the moving sidewalk, you're going to get there. And being passive about this is just as bad as being active, because you're a look the other way. These things have to require a person to take responsibility for himself, for herself, move forward, and be active. Because if you're not doing things towards making the world a better place, then your passivity is making the world a worse place. You cannot just be on the sidelines now.
The math checks out on that.
Yes.
All right, well, we are very appreciative of your energy and your passion for people. It's something we love here at Make It Fair. We're always looking for ways to try to make it fair for everyone. Again, we want democracy to equal a voice for everyone, regardless of what you got in your bank account. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with as far as your campaign is concerned?
We've been basically talking about why I'm involved in the politics in the process and why I wanted to run. I haven't actually spoken to any of my issues on what I'm running. Would you like to touch on those?
Please.
I've got a big plan for affordable housing, removing the blighted properties. I've got a big plan for getting our sewage and water board together with the Public Works Department. Right now, one of the reasons why we have so many problems with the sewage and water board and the Public Works is there are 350 jobs that are open at the sewage and water board that need being filled. Now, a few years ago, the city council decided that they were not going to let the sewage and water board people work overtime anymore. So they cut their hours. They used to be able to work 60, 65 hours, and once they passed 40 hours, it was time and a half. Okay, well, they stopped doing that. The still work needs to be done, and as I said, we have 350 jobs that need to be filled, but the work's not going to get done because at 40 hours, they have to stop.
Right.
So the work doesn't get done, so what if that forces the city to do is hire private contractors who are going to charge the city twice as much money to get the work done because the work still needs to be done. Now, the person who starts at sewage and water, on his first day, he's going to be making $10 an hour. After 2 years, $12. After 15 years, it's going to be up to $16 an hour. At time and a half, that's $24 an hour. Okay, so people would work extra and they'd be able to make their ends meet. Well, now if they're not able to work overtime, that needs to be outsourced. The person on his first day, her first day, holding that slow stop sign, that's an entry-level job for the private contractor. That person's making $25 an hour on first day.
Right.
A person who would be working for Sewage and Water Board would be making that after 15 years, would be making $16 an hour, at time and a half, $24 an hour, still making less than the person whose first day it is. Now, this is not to disparage this person who got a good job.
Sure.
This is just to bring light to the fact that the people who have jobs with the city need to be taken care of by the city. And that's one of the reasons why our work doesn't get done.
Well, and even even beyond that, if one person is doing the job that they've been hired to do, there's a continuity issue with then having to stop and then bring someone else in to continue the work, isn't there not?
Of course there is. Say you get 80% of the work finished, and then you're going to come back a few weeks later. Well, it's not going to be maintained at 80%. It's going to drop down to 66%, say 65%. You're going to lose where you were because it's not going to maintain outdoors where it is. So you're going to have to do work twice and 3 times and 4 times over to get it finished because you're not able to finish the job because there's a time restriction on your employment. Okay. Right now we also have firefighters that start working in Orleans Parish at $10.23 an hour. Orleans Parish is the worst paid parish for firefighters of 64. On average, 25% less than every other parish in the state. Half as much as Jefferson Parish, right over there. These guys, these ladies, they work 2-3 years into it. They move over to Jefferson Parish. They're making twice as much money. And it's, again, these are the jobs that they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because of the passion of public service and helping people. But when it comes down to making twice as much money, it's a question of, hey, I've got to make twice. I can still serve people over there as opposed to over here. You know, and I'm going to be fighting for a $15 minimum wage. And now that's not a citywide thing, but I've got a loud voice, and I'm going to give it my full-throated support, yelling up the river to Baton Rouge, writing legislation and pushing it so we get a $15 minimum wage, which is going to lead to a living wage. Because right now you got people who are 2 or 3 jobs in. They can't make the ends meet because, like I said before, the life event could happen and you need a $300 doctor bill or $300 car repair bill, and that's going to set you back. So right now you need this because if people are working 2 jobs, then they're not able to be home with the family.
That's right.
And the kitchen table, that's where the family unit is. That's where the community begins, and it begins with the community. And if people aren't there to be with their children are not going to survive in a vacuum. They're going to find other things to occupy their time. A broken Xbox in the back room, where they're going to find the kids on the street with the flashy cars and lots of money, and they're going to be indoctrinated into gangs because they don't have the family unit to help keep them there. We need criminal justice reform because right now, 56% of African American men in New Orleans are unemployed. 56% from 18 to 65. I mean, that's one out of 2.
That's a giant number.
1 out of every 3 African American men is either in the prison system, just got out, or has a significant family member in, like a father, an uncle, a cousin, older brother. That's destroying the community. One of the ways to keep crime down is give people jobs. And that brings me back to how we're going to do affordable housing, how we're going to get rid of the blight, how we're going to train people for jobs. That's a 4-fold win situation. Okay. We have 27,000 blighted properties. About half of those are managed by the city. Turn those properties into opportunities. You have journeymen, master craftsmen who will bring on kids 12, 13, 14 years old and teach them every aspect of home improvement, from the floors to the roof, including carpentry, electrical, plumbing, tile work. Train these kids to have a vocation. Not everyone wants to go to college, but everyone should have some sort of training to get a good job.
Sure.
At the end of it, the guys and ladies who have been training these people, the craftsmen, they get paid. The kids got a good vocation. You have the blighted property removed, and then you have access to these houses for, low-income people, Section 8 people, people who are first-time home buyers, musicians. You have people who can afford these houses. Now they're good houses. That takes care of all those things. Win-win, win-win, all at the same time. And we need to have a criminal justice reform program so that people who are coming out of jail, because right now, Orleans Parish has the highest per capita prison population in the world. Okay, if we could have arrested our way out of this problem, we would have done it. We'd have streets as clean and safe as Singapore, but we don't. And we also don't have the worst people in the world. So it's not like we need to keep all these people in jails. We don't need to build more prisons because it's like what they said in, Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. If we build another 200-bed prison, we're going to fill it up with bad guys.
Right.
And we can't do that. You're just going to keep on arresting our way out of the problem, which is proven not to work. So let's get people to have vocational training. And when they do get out, let's have some sort of reentry program for them. Right now, there's only one woman doing reentry program in the entire city of New Orleans out in the east.
I mean, when you've got so many people that are in the system, how are they supposed to reenter society when there's one person for all of those people?
One person doing for the women in the entire city of New Orleans, okay? this is criminal, because these people are going to come out, after 10, 15, 20 years. How are they going to have a place to go if they've been inside? Without a job, without a support system, without family, they're going to go back into the life, and then you're going to have a revolving door prison problem. We need, instead of a revolving door prison process, we need jobs to give people, and you're going to pay a little today as opposed to a lot from today and forever. So, because right now, all the violence, and I'm for hiring more police. We're at somewhere around 1,150 police. Before Katrina, we had almost 1,600 police. We need those 500 officers. We need them to help police our streets. That's one of the reasons our response time is so low with police. It's because we don't have enough police. We have on average about 200 police officers on duty at any given time in the entire city of New Orleans. 200. It's not enough.
No.
So one of the reasons our streets aren't safe, again, it's not that these cops need more money. Everyone needs more money, but they're not doing it because of the job and the payment. They're doing it because of the love of the job. They just need more help. Now, if we had, before the storms, we had almost 1,600 people. Let's give them the 1,600 officers that they need just to get where they were a dozen years ago. All right? Because right now, arrests for misdemeanor marijuana possession equal the arrests for all the other violent crimes. Murder, robbery, assault, they equal. This is a fine. This is a $40 fine for up to 2.5 pounds is misdemeanor possession. Don't bring these people to jail. Write them a ticket, and then get back to finding the violent crimes. Because right now,
it takes a lot of the effort away from other things that are
absolutely
that are more important, that are more dangerous, that are.
They're real serious crime issues. If somebody steals $20 worth of candy, don't put that person in jail, because right now, 87 days. 87 days is the average time somebody is in jail before standing tall before the bench in Muni Court. If you're out for 3 months, you're going to lose your job. You might lose your house. Your family's going to be wondering where you are and if you're going to come. And that's the average, 3 months. Okay, who gets paid? Who gets the benefit from that? From taking our citizens and putting them in jail. These are nonviolent crimes. All right, so you had 50 parking tickets or whatever. These are the nonviolent crimes. You had parking tickets, too many, so you go in jail when they find you. No, write a summons, and then if the person doesn't show up for court, then the person gets a bench warrant for contempt, failure to show. All right, but the idea that we're going to be able to just take all these violent criminals and put them with nonviolent criminals, that's not going to help. Violent criminals need to be inside. Nonviolent criminals need to be written a summons, and then let the police officers get back to the policing, not persecuting. They want to be police. They don't want to be persecuting people. We can do this. Here's the thing. The problems that are facing New Orleans are not that insoluble. We're not trying to turn men into mushrooms. We're not trying to turn lead into gold. Our drainage problems, we can solve them. They solved them in Holland. All right, our crime problems are not insoluble. Look at places in Asia, places in Europe. They have problems with crime that they've solved. We can do this. The way we're approaching it is not working. We can't have 63% of our city budget for prisons, reactionary measures, and the police get the lowest end of that. Okay, look at it this way. If you have a home and you're spending $2 out of every $3 you earn every month to keep your home safe, you're going to have barbed wire fences, bars on the windows, you're going to have a security system, you're going to have a dog, you're going to have yourself a pistol, but you're not going to be able to keep the lights on or feed yourself, because 2 out of every $3 that you spend goes to home security. That's not going to take care of flooding or tornadoes or anything like that. That is untenable. You can't do that. We need more money put into education. We need more social services like mental health. We have people have a problem. There's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of mental health issues. There are a lot of drug addiction issues in the city. Yes, but we need to address those issues and not put these people in jail. Because mental health issues, 1 in 3 people is affected by a mental health issue. That's not something that should be stigmatized. We're in the 21st century now. We need to address these issues. We have places that can address these issues. Instead of putting these people in jail and saying that they will put them in jail, because there was a new proposed 182, 185 bed prison addition, and they're going to put the mentally ill in there. No, That's ridiculous. This is not the 19th century where you put the mentally ill and you should put them on, you go and you pay 2 bits and you go look at them.
A catch-all for any issue.
And it's the idea of, well, they're homeless, they're going to be mentally ill. Yes, imagine if you lose something, you lose your home, how can that not affect your mental health?
Absolutely.
You're homeless, so naturally they're going to go hand in hand. And people who have mental illness, they're often going to try and self-medicate, and they're going to fail at that because they're not being overseen, they're not getting the medication they need, the social services they need. We can either pay for this now, up front, like every civilized society does, or we can complain about it and try and incarcerate these people, which is not going to help the problem.
You have a gut instinct, a feeling about why we are kind of doing this reactionary methods of instead of some of the ideas you're putting light on?
Well, I would have to say that it's the old way. We've always done it this way before. Let's just keep doing it. Well, it's the idea of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not going to give you a different result. We need to change tack and try something new. The only thing that we can offer is another chance to succeed or fail. Now, I'm a Democrat, so I'm used to being wrong all the time. That's how I get to right, is being wrong. But you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of being wrong. And you can't be afraid of criticism. You can't be afraid of other people telling you that's not going to work. You have to stick to your guns and move forward and be okay with trying something new that may or may not work. But you know what? It's like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Absolutely. Let's try something new. And we've got people who want things to change. It's not like you're dragging people kicking and screaming. The only people who seem not to want things to change are the people who have vested interest in keeping things the way they are. And too many people are not doing well enough here in New Orleans. There is an increasing divide between the people, and that's not going to just heal itself.
Right. Well, so it sounds like what you're saying is the people who have the interest in keeping things the way they are they have a financial interest, and it's working out for them, but not for everybody, and certainly not a majority of New Orleanians.
No, I'm afraid not. But God bless them. God bless the more affluent people. I'm not going to disparage anybody for having money.
No.
The idea is the rich people, it won't matter who's the mayor, who's in the city council. They're going to do just fine no matter what.
Absolutely.
It's the people who don't have, who may experience a huge benefit from new social programs. Yes, it's going to be better to have better schools and better treatment programs and better reentry programs, better jobs, so that people can do more. And in the long run, everyone's going to do more. Even the really rich people are going to not
That's right.
have things to worry about, like their cars hitting potholes. I mean, that affects anyone who drives. These are just issues that we can address, and we need to address. It's our civic responsibility to take on the hard challenges of the day and not let other people do the heavy lifting for us. If you don't have a doctor's note, then you have no excuse for not getting out there and doing stuff. You can get out there and be a part of the solution. It's your responsibility to be a part. You can complain all you want, and I encourage you to do so. Complain, that's how things get done. But if you're not out there helping, doing what you can, being a part of your neighborhood, of your community, building relations with everyone else, well then you can't complain. Then you don't have the privilege of complaining because you haven't done the heavy lifting that it requires to be a citizen. And being a citizen is the most important thing. It's the most important job you'll ever have, is speaking out if something bothers you. Don't look the other way. Let it bother you. Let it bother you that your streets are dirty, and pick it up. It's not beneath you to pick up trash in your street. It's not beneath you to cut grass in a blighted property or help clean out your catch basins. It is a privilege to be able to do that. That is something as a badge of honor, to walk around and say, yeah, I helped out somebody who can't help for himself, who can't do what she can do for herself. Yes, that's part of being a community builder. That's one of the programs that I started, was a Let It Bother You program, taking my little red lawnmower out and cutting the grass in the blighted lots around my neighborhood. Now, truly, I thought this was a good idea, sitting on my couch in the air conditioning and not working out in the 95-degree weather cutting grass. But the point is that it still works. And it's like a mitzvah. We just came from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so I got a clean book, so it's a mitzvah. A good deed brings about another good deed, and another good deed, and another good deed. Mitzvahs build mitzvahs. That idea is important, because you might be out there all by yourself, but you're not going to stay out there by yourself. You know, you're going to have the weight of a wall of good people wanting to do something and just looking for a little inspiration to do it. And then once that inspiration builds, people are going to continue to build it. And you're not going to be alone. It's going to be 1 in 10,000 come for the show. You're going to be out there. And just because you're alone doesn't mean you're physically alone. Spiritually alone is a different thing. You're going to have people who are going to start off and they're going to say to you, maybe not today or tomorrow, but you're going to bump into somebody and say, hey, I saw you doing that thing and that started me doing my thing. And you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And if you get praises or something, that's extra. But good works don't get the recognition personally to make them the reason why you're doing them. You just do them for the right to do them because they're the good thing to do. You know, you only know that if you do something wrong, you get that feeling. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. And if you do something that's bad, you know when you've done it, and you get the punishment for that. But good works, you just do it because it's the right thing to do. If you do something wrong, you know it's wrong. But you do the good thing just because it's the right thing to do, not because somebody's going to pat you on the back or give you a cookie. You do it, and if somebody eventually says, hey, I saw you doing that, that's great, that's something that's just a little, like you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you didn't know that you had water in your ear and all of a sudden, boop, it pops and all of a sudden you can hear better and you didn't even know. That's just a little benefit. You're just like, oh, wow, that was really cool. That's the little praise that you get months down the road. I was like, oh, hey, I saw this is the guy who did that thing. Oh, well, thanks, yeah. You let me talk a long time, Stuart.
Well, so you have a lot to say, and we appreciate that. Dr. Andre Strumer running for City Council, District B. Again, early voting already underway through Saturday, October 7th. Voting day, Election Day here in New Orleans, October 14th. And if you want to see the changes you want here in New Orleans, if you want New Orleans to end corruption, it's got to start with a vote. So please make sure you get out the vote. We also, of course, want to know what you want to see in a city council member, so you can always log on to our website, makeitfair.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter to leave your comments as well. Dr. Andre Strumer, good luck in your campaign.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you on the trail.
All right, brilliant. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate your time.